Here is something that nobody warns you about. You can earn more money than anyone in your family ever has and still not feel wealthy. You can deposit a paycheck that would have seemed impossible to your parents and still lie awake at night wondering if you're doing enough. You can cross financial thresholds that previous generations never reached and still carry the quiet anxiety of someone who grew up watching money disappear faster than it arrived. This is the contradiction that the first millionaire lives with. And it raises a question worth sitting with. Why does earning more not automatically make someone feel wealthy? The answer has almost nothing to do with the numbers in your bank account. There is a fundamental difference between surviving financially and building assets intentionally. Surviving means you earn, you cover what needs to be covered, and you hope there's something left. Building means every dollar has a direction before it arrives. Surviving is reactive. Building is deliberate. Most people raised in financially stretched households learn the first approach before they're old enough to understand money at all. They absorb it through watching how the adults around them responded to financial pressure. Cover the rent, pay the electric bill, handle whatever emergency just appeared. Money was something to manage immediately, not something to deploy strategically over decades. That pattern becomes deeply embedded, and when income finally increases, the old pattern often follows right along with it. More money arrives, and the instinct is still to respond, react, and manage the present. The idea of building something that grows quietly in the background while you sleep feels almost foreign, almost irresponsible, almost like something that belongs to other people. This is the hidden shift. It's not about learning which investment accounts to open or which assets to acquire first. Those things matter, but they come later. The shift that changes everything happens much deeper. It's the moment you stop treating money as something to survive and start treating it as something to direct. What makes this even harder for the first millionaire is that there are no family rules to follow. No parent who sat you down and explained how compound interest quietly multiplies over time. No grandparent who passed down a philosophy about building equity. No older sibling who modeled disciplined investing while you were still in school. You have to create the rules yourself. You have to establish standards that have never existed in your family before. You have to decide what responsible wealth building looks like without anyone ahead of you to follow. That kind of decision-making in complete unfamiliar territory takes more than information. It takes a willingness to trust a process you've never personally seen work. That is not a small thing. That takes courage most people underestimate. And then there's the test that reveals everything. Delayed gratification. It sounds simple. Wait now, gain later. But when you've grown up watching financial comfort feel just out of reach, the temptation to finally enjoy what you've earned is real and powerful. You worked hard. You sacrificed. Part of you believes you deserve to spend freely now. And that part isn't wrong about the sacrifice. It's only wrong about the timing. The first millionaire learns, sometimes through painful mistakes, that the moment financial momentum builds is precisely the moment discipline matters most. Not occasional discipline saved for large decisions. Consistent, quiet, repeatable discipline applied to ordinary ones. The discipline of investing before spending. The discipline of building systems that run regardless of emotion or circumstance. The discipline of measuring progress in years instead of weeks. Wealth almost never comes from one dramatic breakthrough. It almost never arrives in a single transaction that changes everything overnight. It comes from repeatable systems that keep working long after the initial excitement fades. One consistent contribution to an investment account month after month. One business process that generates revenue without requiring constant attention. One habit of learning compounded over years into knowledge that opens doors. These are not glamorous stories, but they are how lasting wealth is actually built. What is rarely discussed is the emotional cost that runs underneath all of it. When you begin to outgrow the financial identity you were raised with, something quietly uncomfortable begins to happen. The version of yourself that knew how to function in scarcity starts to feel like it no longer fits. Old instincts around money that once kept you safe begin to work against you. Spending to feel relief. Avoiding investment because it feels like gambling. Feeling guilty about saving when people around you are struggling. These aren't character flaws. They're survival responses that were appropriate once and now need to be gently, deliberately replaced. That replacement process is not quick. It is not painless. Outgrowing the financial comfort zone you've lived inside for years feels destabilizing in a way that's difficult to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. You may feel like you're betraying something, like you're stepping away from something familiar that once defined you. You're not betraying it. You're building beyond it. And that is entirely different. The first millionaire eventually understands that the internal work is inseparable from the external strategy. You cannot consistently execute disciplined financial habits while still operating from an identity built around scarcity. Both have to change together: the mindset and the behavior, the belief and the system, the person you're becoming and the choices that person makes every single day when no one is watching. Because wealth is not discovered in one brilliant moment. It is constructed slowly, quietly, and deliberately through decisions that seem almost invisible until they aren't. Until one day you look back and realize the distance between where you started and where you are now is so significant that it feels almost impossible. But it isn't impossible. You are already proof of that. What changes when you become the financial turning point? Something changes the moment your family realizes you've made it. It doesn't always happen all at once. Sometimes it begins with a small comment at a family gathering. Sometimes it's a phone call that starts casually and slowly becomes a request. Sometimes it's a look across the room that carries 1,000 unspoken words. But once the shift happens, it happens permanently. You are no longer simply a family member who is doing well. You become the person the family believes can fix things. That is a different kind of weight entirely. When you are the first in your family to reach a level of financial success that others haven't, the expectations around you quietly reorganize. People who never asked for help before begin to feel that asking you is somehow reasonable. Relatives who struggled in silence for years suddenly see a door that wasn't there before. And many of them aren't asking out of greed or manipulation. They're asking out of genuine need, real hardship, real fear, the kind of financial pressure you yourself once understood deeply. That is what makes it complicated. You know what it feels like to be on the other side of that need. You remember it, and that memory can make boundaries feel cruel even when they're necessary. Here's what nobody tells you about reaching this milestone. Your success does not automatically increase your capacity to carry everyone else's problems. Income can grow. Responsibility does not have to grow at the same rate. The first millionaire who says yes to every request, who becomes the emergency fund for an entire extended family, who loans money without structure or expectation, often discovers something painful a few years down the road. The wealth that took years to build can be quietly, steadily redistributed in ways that never created lasting change for anyone. Money given without financial education attached rarely produces financial transformation. It often produces dependency. And dependency, even when it comes from love, is not legacy. This is where boundaries become a financial tool, not just an emotional one. Boundaries protect the long-term plan. They preserve the very resource that allows you to help people in meaningful ways over time rather than depleting yourself in a single season. Communicating those boundaries clearly, kindly, and early is not abandoning family. It is protecting the ability to continue serving them for decades. Financial privacy also becomes relevant in ways you may not have expected. Not every family member needs to know every detail of your net worth, your investments, or your business decisions. Information shared without context often creates misunderstanding. And misunderstanding creates distance that damages the very relationships you're trying to protect. There is also an identity shift that happens inside the first millionaire that deserves honest attention. You began this journey focused on your own freedom, your own future, your own survival and growth. And then gradually, the way people see you changes. You stop being someone building towards something. You start being seen as someone who has already arrived and now exists to help others arrive too. Some of that responsibility is real and worth embracing. But if you absorb that identity without questioning it, you can lose the thread of your own vision entirely. You can begin making financial decisions based on what the family needs rather than what the long-term plan requires. And a financial plan built around managing everyone else's present will struggle to build anyone's future. This is the moment to think differently about what your wealth is actually for. The first millionaire who thinks only about income will always feel the pressure of being needed, because income can be spent. But the first millionaire who shifts focus toward ownership, equity, and generational structure begins building something that grows independent of any single person's needs. A family investment account that earns quietly for decades. A business that creates employment rather than just profit. Real estate that builds equity and provides stability. An estate plan that ensures the wealth survives the person who created it. These are not complicated ideas reserved for people born into money. They are deliberate choices available to anyone willing to stop thinking about this month and start thinking about this generation. Generational planning also means teaching. It means having honest conversations with younger family members about how money actually works. Not lecturing, not bragging, simply modeling the habits and sharing the language of financial intelligence before the next generation absorbs the same limiting beliefs you had to work so hard to replace. The greatest inheritance is not a bank account balance. It is a relationship with money that doesn't require a cycle of struggle and rescue to continue. And perhaps the most profound thing the first millionaire eventually realizes is this: the number in your portfolio is not the most significant thing you will ever give your family. The most significant thing is what your family begins to believe is possible because of you. Children who grow up watching someone they love make intentional financial decisions will not experience money the same way. They will not carry the same silent fear. They will not need to unlearn the same survival instincts. They will start from a different place entirely, not a perfect place, but a different one, a higher one. That is what changing the financial direction of a family truly means. It is not saving people from difficulty. It is raising the baseline of what your family believes they deserve and what they believe they are capable of building. You are not just changing your life, you are changing what your family believes is normal. That belief, once planted, compounds just like interest does. Quietly, steadily, across years and generations that are still waiting to be born. So if you are standing at that turning point today, uncertain of how to balance your own growth with the weight of family expectations, remember this: protect the plan, honor the people, teach what you know, and keep building. Because the most powerful thing you can give the people you love is proof that a different kind of future is not just possible for someone else. It is possible for them.